JD Vance was just humiliated by his own wife. JD Vance is falling apart over his little marriage secret that just got out. And it is a great week for humankind because we all hate JD Vance. And JD Vance was just humiliated, not only by his own wife this week, but by the Pope in the same 7-day period. It is just chef's kiss. So JD Vance let slip a vicious secret about his marriage, and it is not so good. What JD Vance just accidentally admitted is that his marriage is hiding a glaring, deeply awkward secret, one that he really doesn't want to get out to his entire conservative trad wifey base. It is a secret so fundamentally at odds with his political positioning that his team is absolutely panicking. And they're always kind of panicking because JD Vance is a fucking mess. So I'm going to show you, and you're going to see the exact moment that JD Vance just confessed what's going on, what's really going on between him and Usha. And it completely shatters this entire MAGA moral high ground. Real quick, I'm Lauren Paritra. Willa Paritra is right behind me in her little bed, and we're going to ask you to take a moment to please subscribe. Subscribe, or you might risk 10 years of Stephen Miller nesting in your floorboards, coming out of your drain like a fruit fly, multiplying and hovering over one dry banana. It is no good. So every subscription, every comment, 6 words or more, every save, every share, every follow, every 5-star rating, wherever you get your podcasts, all of these actions actually help protect your favorite local small business too from becoming a Turning Point USA Faith Center in a male-only podcast studio. The choice is yours. So drop a comment, 6 words or more, share, save, all the things, and let's stay safe and get back to it. So to really get into why this confession is so embarrassing, you have to look at the specific character that JD Vance has been playing for the last 2 years. He has learned the hard way that nobody really likes him and they're not buying it. There's also this really interesting Catholic resurgence going on right now. But JD Vance converted back in 2019, and he now is trying to make everything about being Catholic, Christian, right? He wants to be the guy who intellectualizes the movement, but he takes himself so seriously that he just picked a public fight with the Pope.
Now, Pope Leo XIV, in a recent document, encouraged us as human beings not to outsource the most important moral decisions to digital technology.
Here's the backstory. Pope Leo just released his first major drop.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity. Artificial intelligence now demands to be disarmed.
Well, it covers things like AI regulation. Paragraph 192 drops an absolute bomb on the current U.S. foreign policy. The Pope explicitly states that the historic Catholic just war theory is completely outdated because modern weapons make it impossible to avoid disproportionate evil. Wait till he hears about Benjamin Netanyahu. He basically came out and said, you cannot morally justify dropping bombs in the conflict with Iran. Name the lie. Now, a normal politician would just dodge the question or say something very vanilla and neutral and just keep it at bay, or maybe try to minimize the national defense play. But JD Vance publicly calls himself a baby Catholic, decided it was his job to correct the head of the Catholic Church on television. So at a Turning Point USA event in Georgia, JD stood his fat, puffy face on stage and told the Pope he needs to be careful. JD Vance told the Pope he needs to be careful when talking about theology.
But I think that it's important, in the same way that it's important for the Vice President of the United States to be careful when I talk about matters of public policy, I think it's very, very important for the Pope to be careful when he talks about matters of theology.
And that he needs to make sure his opinions are anchored in the truth. Okay, JD Vance. And when I first started this podcast, I remember sitting there thinking, what if nobody listens? Seriously, you put so much time and energy into building something, and there's always that little voice in your head wondering if this is ever going to work out. But taking that leap ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And if you're starting a business or launching something online, having the right tools behind you can make such a huge difference. That's why Shopify is such a game changer. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of e-commerce in the US. From huge brands to brand new entrepreneurs just getting started, they give you hundreds of customizable templates so that way your online store actually looks clean and professional. And your Shopify handles everything in one place: inventory, payments, analytics, shipping, returns, all of it. Plus, if you ever get stuck, their award-winning 24/7 customer support is always there to help. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/Lauren. Go to shopify.com/Lauren. That's shopify.com/Lauren, LOREN, and I'll also link it in the description. Think about the sheer level of arrogance required for JD Vance to be mansplaining Catholicism to the Pope. JD Vance has been in the pews for 5 minutes. All of this to justify an administration's war that has resulted in already at least 1,700 civilian casualties. You guys, we've been leveling cities full of civilians. We have had American lives lost. We have cost. We're working on cutting healthcare in the United States and resources for people here, so that way Trump can just bomb his little heart out.
But one of the things that makes Americans unique, that makes you as warfighters unique, is that we wage war justly.
This is all bad. This is a baseless war. And the Iranian regime, horrible. But this is not making anything better. In fact, it's actually making things worse for the people in Iran. So watching this all go down is a car crash. And America's top doctrinal bishop had to publicly step in and clarify that when the Pope speaks, he isn't just dropping a political opinion piece, he's preaching the gospel. So here's the thing. When you look past all that noise, JD Vance doesn't actually care about the theology of St. Augustine or war doctrine. The religious posturing is just a convenient way to distract from the mess that is his personal life and his marriage with Usha. It's a way to manufacture a self-righteous image to cover up what the administration is actually doing behind the scenes and in front of the scenes too.
First of all, thank you for your leadership, sir, and for making it possible.
Look at what else is happening in the executive branch right now while JD Vance pretends to be a defender of the faith. Donald Trump is treating the federal budget like a personal piggyback. He's holding up essentially funding packages to demand a $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. That is a sanitized corporate name for a legal defense and a payout slush designed to compensate Trump loyalists and the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Senate Republicans are actively resisting it, pushing votes back because the whole thing looks incredibly corrupt, because it is. And if you look at the conservative influencer world that props these guys up, the hypocrisy is just as loud. Take somebody like Erica Kirk, for example. She spends her entire time online shouting about traditional family values and protecting the kids and resisting modern culture, yet she's currently facing massive backlash from parents because of her recent Women's Leadership Summit in Texas, how it quietly opened its doors to 13-year-old girls. People are looking at the policy and asking serious questions about what kind of ideological grooming is going on here and what is actually happening at these high-ticket events. So the entire conservative ecosystem is built on this exact same model. They want you to focus on performative outrage. They want you to be distracted by things like the less than 1% of the population that's trans that may want to play t-ball in their elementary school. They don't want you to actually realize that all this moral preaching that they're doing, all the preaching that they're doing to the masses, they don't live by a single fucking word of it, okay? Which brings us back to JD Vance and the massive, deeply awkward secret sitting right in his living room. And it's not a couch. I know what you're thinking. If you look at his public fight with the Vatican, that was a mess. Look at how his faith is actually managed at home. JD Vance has a new follow-up memoir coming up. We've talked about it a little bit, but it's coming out on June 16th, and it's called Communion. It's being published by HarperCollins, which makes me think a whole lot less of HarperCollins. And it's marketed. He's trying to position it as this deeply personal narrative about finding his way home to the Catholic faith. And he, of course, put a church on it that isn't even a Catholic church. He sat down for an exclusive interview with NBC to preview the launch. And during that call, he completely told on himself. He admitted to the reporter that the absolute architect, the manager, the primary controller of his deeply personal spiritual memoir isn't even a Christian. It's his wife, Usha. Usha Vance, who always looks like she's being held at gunpoint, or at the very least, she always looks deeply disappointed in herself. I get it.
There's virtually nothing that I do in a given day that means as much as seeing them learn something new, seeing them grow into being a better person, helping shape a future where they will be able to do the same things that I'm doing today.
And J.D. Vance is casually bragging that Usha acted as his vicious editor for the book. He explained that she was heavily involved in nearly every single facet of shaping his religious texts. She was the one who harmonized different chapters and ruthlessly cut out parts of his actual spiritual journey that she decided didn't add any value. The poster boy for Christian nationalism is literally letting his wife red pen his soul for mass consumption. Here's the reality check for the MAGA base. Usha Vance is a practicing Hindu. She's not Christian. She's not Catholic. She has no intention of ever converting to Christianity or to Catholicism, even though J.D. Vance continues to publicly disrespect her every chance he gets to talk about it. Her own children are raised experiencing Hindu traditions. In the exact same interview, J.D. Vance had to backtrack on the comments he made last fall at a Turning Point USA event in Mississippi, where he stood in front of 10,000 people and claimed that he hopes and wishes that she would eventually convert. Way to air out your private dirty laundry, JD. Maybe you should have a talk with your wife. Maybe you guys should talk together. Now, he's forced to admit that she's fiercely independent and she's not changing her religion, and he has to just be okay with that. Yeah, that's how it works. So you see how this completely breaks their entire narrative. The conservative base is absolutely obsessed with this trad wife fantasy. They want women to bow to their husbands. They want them to look to their husbands as spiritual leadership and let the man run the religious household and the vote and the checks and all of that and the control. They do not want women with financial independence and autonomy. But J.D. Vance's real life is kind of the opposite. He is married to somebody who is on textbook, very brilliant, corporate trained, a secular manager who treats her husband's religious awakening like a slightly corporate rebrand. She looks at his Catholic memoir and rips out parts that don't sound well or chunky. And J.D. Vance explicitly said out loud that, "I don't think I would be a Christian today if it were not for my wife." The irony is incredible. He only believes in the Christian gospel because a Hindu woman managed his PR strategy. She won't even go to his church, which at the end of the day, J.D. Vance isn't some elite theological crusader. He's just a redneck, racist guy reading off of a script his wife had to clean up for him, while he pretends to know more about Catholicism than the actual Pope. If you want to survive the rest of this administration without losing your mind, hit that subscribe button. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple, iHeart. We are cutting through the noise on all of this. We are a daily self-funded bootstrap show, and we really just do this because we find it to be a deeply restorative practice to keep these bitches humble, which is being J.D. Vance. So subscribe. We'll be back with more.